Well, good morning, everybody. This is Pastor Jay, and I'm coming to you from the vicarage on this snowy April morning. Welcome to spring in New England. Hey, we're here to do our Friday Digging Deeper devotional, and all of this week we've been digging into Acts chapter 9, the story of Saul of Tarsus' conversion. And we've been doing this in light of a couple of prophecies that have come to our body personally. And we've been talking about going in God's way and going in the power that God has for us, going in boldness, going in authority, and going in our giftings. And so as I preached last week from Acts chapter 9, verse 20, one of the things that Saul of Tarsus immediately did upon his conversion was he spent a few days with the disciples in Damascus, and then he immediately began to preach and declare that Jesus is the Son of God. Now, I made a point on Sunday that Paul knew a lot about the scripture, the Old Testament in particular, because he was a student of the school of Gamaliel, which is sort of the Harvard school of theology for its day. It was top-notch, and he was trained as a biblical or an Old Testament scholar, a scholar in the law. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees by his own description. But while he knew the Old Testament very, very well, he did not know Jesus at all. And yet, right after he was born again, right after he was saved, right after he was converted, Saul of Tarsus began to declare that Jesus was indeed the Son of God. Now, this is a lesson for us, because so many of us think when we get saved, well, I now have to become a Bible scholar before I can tell anybody about Jesus. No, we have an experience with Jesus just like Saul of Tarsus did. Saul might have had a benefit in knowing the Old Testament better than you, but you still have a story like Saul of Tarsus. You have been saved. You have had an experience with Jesus Christ. You have come to Jesus and decided to be a Christian for a reason. I wouldn't suggest that you go out and try to parse the more difficult scriptures in the book of Romans and try to explain the deeper theological reasonings for the incarnation or the rapture, but I think you should tell people your story about how you came to Jesus and why you came to Jesus. Be ready to give people a reason for the faith that you have claimed. It doesn't have to be complicated. Listen, people will argue with your theology, whether you're a Christian for 4 days or 90 years, should you live that long. There will be arguments over your theology, but no one can argue with your story, your witness, or your decision to come to Christ. Oh, they'll argue it for sure, but the one thing you can be sure of is your personal story. So can I encourage you, like Saul of Tarsus, begin to share your personal story. I don't think Saul was reasoning from the scripture at this point in Acts chapter 9, verse 20. But I know he was telling them the story about how he got knocked off his high horse, was stricken blind by Jesus, and then healed by that same Jesus, and baptized into that same Jesus. I think Saul was giving his personal witness on these first days in Damascus, and nobody could refute that. So can I just share your story. Share your story of how you came to Christ. Share it boldly and share it willingly, because it's a powerful thing. All right, that's all I have for now. Until we meet again, God bless you and be at peace.